Welcome everybody back to AuburnVersus.com. Mike Szvetitz, sports editor of the Opelika-Auburn News, here with Collin, Mickle, Auburn University beat writer for the Opelika-Auburn News. Collin, big win down in the swamp against number 4 Florida. Just impressions of the game now that we've had a couple days to digest exactly what Auburn did. What did they do well, and how big of a win was it for this program?
Well, I mean, what they did well was honestly everything. They took care of the ball. They moved the ball in the passing game when they had to. They got the tough first downs on the ground when they had to. The defense obviously played amazingly well, with the exception of those 2 touchdown drives. I mean, they did everything they had to do to win the game, and it still came down to a field goal, in the end. That was just, a great game. Obviously, as anyone who was there or watched it on TV knows, just a thriller and the kind of game that, players come to Auburn and Florida to play.
And that game specifically kind of is what Auburn has done over the years. Is when they're down and they lose a game they're not supposed to, or a couple games they're not supposed to, they come back and beat a team like Florida on the road. Actually, their road schedule, or their schedule is top ranked. And they've won every year for the last 7 years. What is it about that team that just gets up for games like that?
It's honestly a mystery. When you ask people around this program, that they kind of get a little cagey. They say that they treat all the games the same, and whatever it is, obviously it's working. Obviously, I'm sure they're not anxious to let the secret get out, but they do obviously a great job against top-ranked, top 10 opponents. And the proof is in the pudding. Like you said, they've won at least one of those games. Every year for the last 7 years. That's amazing.
Yeah, coming down to the end of it on true freshman kicker Wes Byram, we've talked all year kind of about how clutch he is and just how he doesn't get rattled. Well, he really showed it Saturday night, making not 1 but 2 field goals after the timeout to beat Florida in the swamp, the loudest I've ever heard a stadium. Press box was shaking. Getting everybody seasick. How big was that for Wes Byram? And is he the kind of kicker by the time he leaves here? Can he be the best that's ever kicked at Auburn?
You hate to project after 5 years into a guy's career, but Wes Byram, whatever it is that kickers have, he has. He is mentally just as tough and as calm and as collected as I've ever seen a player at any position. The kid just does not get rattled. I'm amazed by him, really. I don't think that there's anybody that they would rather have kick that field goal. Anybody in the country, anybody who's played at Auburn recently. Wes Byram is the definition of clutch right now.
Now let's talk about Brandon Cox and Cody Burns. The way that they were used on Saturday night, more of what they described in the beginning of the year, where they were going to use the 2-quarterback system. Brandon was going to be the guy throws and move the team down the field. Cody came in to spell that and give a little different look. It seemed to work pretty well. Now, do you think, they've said that they wanted to use it like that, but they haven't in the last 2 games other than Saturday night against Florida. How do you see this 2-quarterback system working in the future?
Well, Board just said he'd like to get Cody a few more snaps. They were in situations where Brandon was playing so well, and you don't want to mess with what works. Obviously, Cody had the rushing touchdown, which was to start the game, which really capped a good drive and got the ball rolling in Auburn's direction. But that is kind of the ideal way to use it. Brandon played great, Cody played great. When Brandon plays well, they don't have to force Cody. They don't have to force things with him. And I don't think they could have asked for that system to work better in that situation. Al says that he will script some more opportunities for Cody to get in the game. Some easier situations, maybe some short yardage situations where he can figure things out and just get that extra experience. Because obviously right now, Brandon Cox is this team's quarterback, but Cody Burns is this team's future. Balancing those 2 things is going to be an ongoing challenge as far as game plan.
And here's when we come into a game now. Last week they talked about a trap game for Florida. This could be a trap game for Auburn coming into Vandy. Everybody wants to know about the hangover. Is it going to happen? Can Auburn still get up to beat Vandy at home at 11:30, an early kickoff? Here we go. We're starting all this again. What is Auburn this week? What's the move kind of the practice and of the players and coaches this week as they prepare for Vandy?
Well, practices are closed, so we have to rely on what we're told. But we're told that the attitude in practice is good. I think every time someone is asked, will this be a trap game, lessens the chances of it being, a trap. I think that they will do everything in their power to take Vanderbilt seriously. It is still Vanderbilt. It is not the same as Florida. It is impossible. Any college football coach, if he's being honest, will tell you it is impossible to get a team sky high 12 games a year. You just can't do it. You'd like to, but they're not going to be as high as they were last week. They're not going to be as high as they will be next week because you just can't. You don't have that energy in you, to just turn it on every time. With that said, Auburn should be able to come out, 70% and beat Vanderbilt. This is a decent Vanderbilt team, but they're still a Vanderbilt team, and Auburn has more talent.
12-0 Auburn is in the last since 1957, 1955. They haven't lost to Vanderbilt. So a game that Auburn on paper should win, but again, that was Mississippi State as well. And
That's true.
What happened there, but
I'm done picking Auburn games, by the way. I mean, between losing at home to Mississippi State and then upsetting Florida in the swamp, I just can't figure out what this team is all about.
Nobody had it figured out. But Collin, I'll put you on the spot here for the final question. Predictions for Saturday, as close as you could possibly get.
I love that I'm still picking scores since I haven't been within like 2 touchdowns.
We just love it's good fodder for the people who watch.
Exactly, Mississippi State fans hopefully are still watching this. Oh, that guy! But I'm going to say Auburn 30 and Vanderbilt 10. I mean, it just is not going to be a very close game. I keep picking not close games and I keep playing them. A smarter person would realize I'm doing something wrong here.
Yeah, again, that's why we're on AuburnVersus.com.
Say
something else.
What's your pick, Mike Szvetitz?
I'm glad you asked. My pick would be Auburn 21, Vanderbilt 3. I think there's a little bit of a hangover. Defense plays well. A lot of injuries on defense this week. Quentin Grove's out. Trey Blackman iffy a little bit. Merrill Johnson might come back this week. We don't know, but so injuries on defense. I think they play well, but offense a little bit of a hangover still. 21-3 is my pick, Collin. And, maybe we'll go back and watch.
I'm glad we had this moment.
Yeah, absolutely. So we appreciate you guys watching AuburnVersus.com. We'll be back next week. Recap of the Vanderbilt game and previewing the long road trip to Arkansas. I know Collin cannot wait to get to Fayetteville.
No doubt.
So
it's a great town, folks.
It's no Starkville, though.
Fayetteville Chamber of Commerce, get me on the phone, whatever it takes. I'm pimping your town.
That's right.
Can we say pimping on the internet?
I guess we just did. You said it twice.
Okay.
All right. We'll be back next week again on AuburnVersus.com. Thank you for calling Mickle. I'm Mike Szvetitz. We'll see you next week.